All right. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
Council workshop meeting, Monday, October 7th, 2019, 6 p.m. Heidrich.
Here.
Holtzmeyer.
Here.
Obermark.
Here.
Atke.
Here.
Pettit.
Here.
Scornia.
Here.
Sullentrup. Wessels. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
With liberty and justice for all.
Will the committee members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the meeting dated September 3rd, 2019? Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtzmeyer.
Aye.
Obermark.
Aye.
Atke.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Scornia.
Oh, thank you. Having read the minutes, are there any questions or comments, any corrections?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Obermark, to approve the minutes from our last meeting dated September 3rd, 2019. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the minutes. Thank you.
Report of department heads, engineering, airport farm lease recommendation, 240 plus minus acre parcel.
All right. Good evening, council. Within your packet for this meeting, there were two farm leases that we went out to bid for over at the Washington Regional Airport. They both total approximately 290 acres. Currently, they are leased to two different entities. Every 6 years, we do go out to bid, go out to the open market and just get bids from the different potential bidders in the farming industry. With that, one of the lease agreements, the 240-acre parcel, what is currently leased by Regal Dairy Farm, does have a first right of refusal in that, which means that they have the ability to match any bid that is set forth higher than what their bid would be. So, for example, if there was a competing bid of $150 an acre, they would have the ability to match that. We this year in this bid package did two things different than what we've done in the past. Number one, we required a bid bond, which guarantees essentially that the bidders would adhere to their bid or forfeit the obvious bond. That's something that has not been done in the past. I think it caused some issues previous years before. The other thing that we did was set a minimum bid at $125 an acre. The reason for doing so is the current farm leases are for $125 an acre. I did not go out to the open farm market to see what the average price was. Quite frankly, I didn't have enough time to get it in to get this process rolling. So we just chose. We had 125 acres now. That's the revenue that we get off the property now.
$125. Dollars, not acres. You said 125
Yeah,
acres.
apologies. That's
They understood.
$125 per acre now. That's what we set the minimum bid at. So in this, there's two letters, and I know we're on the 240, but we can look at the 50.3 as well. We did receive two bids for the 50.3, one 262.50 from Missouri Meerschaum, the other one Lay Farms Inc. at 125, the minimum bid. So with that, we are recommending we have two different recommendations. We feel that if we were to go out and solicit bids rather than just place it in the paper and see what comes in, I believe we could get a much higher number. I would also, for the 240 acres, I would also want to actually go to the Farm Bureau in Warren County and Franklin County and get a number on what the going price is for good to high quality farm ground to see what the minimum bid should be, which is something I did not do the first time around. So with that, staff is recommending that we reject the 240 and immediately go out to bid tomorrow, is what the plan would be, is get it in the paper for Wednesday, and then work towards getting an ordinance in front of you all, provided that we get another competing bid by the
October 28th.
by the October 20th council meeting, which puts us still in the window of the lease agreement, which does end on October 31st. The 50.3 acre parcel, we are going to have an ordinance for you to accept that at 262.50, which does an increase in revenue on that 50.3. So we're looking to reject the 240 and accept the 50 on the terms of that we did not have a competing bid on the larger one, and we would like to get one.
John, here's my concern. The 50-acre tract, I know we ran into this 5 or 6 years ago with a gentleman who wanted to plant pumpkins on 10 acres. And he can spend $250, $270 an acre to raise that. But when you're talking the total 240, then that number, I don't think we're comparing apples to apples here when we do a 50-acre tract compared to a 240-acre tract. So do you feel as though if we would put what did Regals
higher
has
minimum?
Well, a higher minimum is one thing, but I guess how do we say we're going to put a higher minimum and expect more bids?
Because I would actually try to solicit, go to the Farm Bureau, just look at renters on that, essentially that bottom ground, and call the people who are renting property on that side and try to solicit additional bids,
Okay.
which is something I did not do.
I guess from a farming standpoint, and then yes, the Regals have called me and asked me about this too, but when they put in a bid, a minimum bid, $125, they put the bid in and expecting to get it, they have seed bought, ready to plant, and now at the 11th hour, we pull back and say, we're going to go out to bid again. If we go out to bid again, and even if we have it in front of us October 28th, nothing gets planted this fall. Wheat doesn't get planted. If they don't bid on it, or we don't get a good bid in October, now we're maintaining it next spring or until we do get a good bid on it. So I think that my opinion is we leave well enough alone. We offer them the bid. And if we want to change something, we do it before we go out to bid the first time. And we put ourselves in a situation where we can change, whether it be the first right of refusal, whether it be adding $25 or $50 an acre to the price, after we do our due diligence and research what the land may be worth, and give them a chance to research that themselves, as opposed to try and do this in a 2-week time frame. That's just, I think that maybe it is worth more, I get that, but leaving well enough alone until we know for sure is gonna enable us to get it rented, first of all, now, get it planted, get it in use, and them taking care of it, as opposed to us maintaining it ourselves if we don't get a bid also.
I totally understand. I would say that we did send this out to bid 2 to 3 weeks in advance because this is the first council meeting in October, recognizing that we may not get a second bid. That does allow us for one more council meeting. So the concept of buying seed and all these things, there was never a guarantee that they would be
Right.
the low
That's-
bidder
I
anyway.
just wanna make sure
And that's
that's-
the
No, I
rush
understand that.
of us, and we could definitely get that done by the 28th. So just keep in mind that the purchasing of the seed and the everything else to get the ground ready, I think is somewhat of a moot point because the lease agreement doesn't start until November 1st anyway. And quite frankly, we're 2 to 3 weeks ahead of the schedule than what we would be, anticipating that there might be a potential situation like this.
I just think I say about the seed, but I guess they are, in Regal's defense, they're expecting to have those 240 acres of wheat planted. And if they don't get that bid, then they're looking somewhere else. So maybe our even time of contract renewal needs to be looked at.
Well-
Maybe we need to do this in July as opposed to, and that's something maybe that we need
And
to
we
look
can
into.
certainly
have
look
to
at
look
and
at
do that
things.
with
Yeah,
the
that's
lease.
not-
I would also make.
I
a-
never change those terms, those are.
I understand. March, April's the wrong time when you want to plant for the season, but you have to plan accordingly.
And I did check with the finance department too. The prior lease to this 6-year agreement was they were paying $198 an acre. So the last 6 years has been 125.
And previous to that was 198?
Sir.
And what, do we know that, the reason for that change?
There was a competing bid and they had to match it.
See, and that's where I think we need to take that out, that first right of refusal.
Well, and I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
So that way we'll get more bids. If they're gonna be the one bid on it and somebody comes in and bids it and they match it, then why would I get bond money to bid it when I'm gonna get
Kicked out anyway.
kicked out anyway?
That's right. And I agree with that. Just, my only concern is doing it now.
Right.
If we need to do it before we go out to bid the first time and get it lined up.
This could be written into the lease agreement. There's a couple of points that I would make. On the next lease agreement, we've talked to Mark about the idea of one, there was some discussion that maybe this was part of the settlement agreement, at the time. That is not the case. We do not have to provide that first right of refusal as a result of that settlement agreement. The second thing is, I think what you need to go ahead and make sure that we do in the lease is so to make sure that this cannot be subleased. That's in your lease right now. I'll talk to Mark and see if the language is in there strong enough so that to make sure that that the lease itself becomes null and void if they sublet that without us knowing that. I think there was situations where it did, because what you run into is when the price
Potentially.
is so cheap
Right.
that it's advantageous maybe to go ahead and lease that out to somebody else. And so that would be something that if you choose to go ahead and accept a bid at 125, we move forward, fine, but we want to go ahead and put that in the lease for the future as well.
I agree. We need to discuss the future bid and lease packet in that way. First right of refusal, whatever the non-secondary lease, however you want to say that. And that's all something we need to do
Right.
before we
First
go
right
out
of
the first.
refusal is in there now.
John, I'm sorry I got here late, but
that out.
we're talking about the Regals over here?
Yep.
And is this a 5-year lease?
It's a
Six.
6-year lease, and it's for what, 100 and what?
125 an acre, which was
Okay.
the minimum
Or
bid.
250 acres?
248.
240
Okay.
40.
tillable.
Would they be interested in signing a 1-year lease so we can get this straightened out maybe next year?
That's what I'm,
That's a,
Oh, that's good.
never.
I think we could, I don't see a reason why we could not.
I mean, I think they would be apt to go towards a 125 for 1 year, then go out for bid again, and that takes care of their problem of getting their stuff in the ground. They get a 1-year lease, and we can get the thing straightened out legally.
Right.
Perfect. Good idea.
When we initially bought that ground, didn't we rent it out for 200 an acre?
Well, you said 198
198
close.
is the little bit of research that I've done on the previous lease agreement, which was in 2013 is when
I thought the first time it was 200 an acre, but
it's
Been a
very
long time.
possible. I don't have that information.
That's a good idea.
We weren't born yet.
I agree with Councilman Solentrop. We get a year.
Two-year
We
contract?
know this, then we know going into it, we can research it now and make our bid packet what we want it to say.
And there is not an ordinance in front of you tonight. I'm
sorry?
There is
There's
not
not
an
an
ordinance in
ordinance.
front of you tonight for the 240 parcel. So we can definitely make that amendment and present it to them.
We could do that and then have that at your meeting on the 28th.
Great idea.
That'd be great.
Talk to them in advance.
Yeah, for sure.
Mark also,
But-
legal. If we can make it a year. It's not how it went out
If,
to bid.
if they verbally agree to it and they want to get started, I mean, if they got the stuff and they want to get it in the ground, I don't even know what they're planting. Wheat, but
Yeah, I understand. That makes sense.
I think the sooner we get it done, the better off they're going to be and we're going to be.
That way we can clean it up. That'll allow us to clean it up.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And there were a lot, like I said, there was a lot of things that we added to the proposal that wasn't before. It's just, the research was not done on standard,
Well, and when the ground was, when we did purchase the ground, we purchased it from the Regals, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
And then at that time, we gave them the first right of refusal because of that, right?
Probably.
But at this time, we're not required to do that, we just did it the first
Well,
2 or 3.
I think it was just a courtesy thing that the city did, to be quite honest. I think your last time, I don't think it was in there about a year ago when we went back and revisited this lease because of the name change. And so they had requested at that time, said, hey, wait a second, how come that first right of refusal isn't in there? Now granted, that's to their advantage because of what we mentioned earlier. We went along with it, said, fine, we'll put it back in there, and we put it in there, and so that's why they're still at a first right of refusal today.
You know, again, I got here late, but going to your sublease that, say the Regals want to sublease it, I don't have anything wrong with them subleasing the land as long as they're not making a profit.
Well, I don't know that, and I don't know how, but here's the thing. If I did get asked that question about, if that activity's been done in the past, what would have taken for that to get approved? And the answer is they would have had to come back to you as a city council to approve that. They can't, the way the lease is written today, they do not have the rights to go ahead and do that without your approval. Cardinals just won.
Zach Fly, Cardinals won.
are you kidding me?
All right.
Now
on to business.
Now on to business.
Sorry. Well, I'm done then, so.
What do we need to do to get this straightened out.
Well, he's
I,
gonna-
I,
he's gonna
well,
get
then
back
I
to
base,
work.
if you're on what Steve was
Going
talking.
what Steve was.
Well, then I think all we got to do tonight, you've got an ordinance in front of you for the 50 acres. I think that's pretty cut and dried.
Yeah.
Then what we will do is we will talk to Mark at the 7 o'clock hour when Mark shows up. And then later on, when this comes up, and we can mention that to him again about the idea of doing it for a 1 year. And then we will bring an ordinance to you October 28th at your meeting. And we're still, like John said, the lease is good until October 31st.
With the changes in the proposal, I really just wanted to get it out in front, out to the market as fast as we could, knowing that there could be some hiccups along the
Right,
way
right.
to have this extra meeting. So
Right.
it's working out well in that aspect.
So do we need a motion?
You need a motion to change this, or this is just?
I think all you have to do, this
need a
is,
motion to change,
Just a
Mary?
motion to forward to council with a 1-year lease.
Okay, so we need a motion to forward this on to,
I'll make
can
Wait, wait.
I just interject? If I can, I would ask that maybe you take no action on this. We wait until, I want to check with Mark and make sure that there wasn't in there, there's something that would limit us to doing this a 1-year lease with them. I want to double check that.
It's just a report of department.
Right.
Yeah, I'll just
Yeah.
This would not,
I'm just saying, before they
Right.
make a motion to
This-
send it on to council for a 1 year, I wanted to make sure that we can do that.
right, but when it gets to council, that's when you do your final decision.
But it's not going to
But
be
it-
on the council later.
It is on
Oh,
the
you got it under
council
reported
agenda.
department heads.
agenda.
Yes.
Sorry, you're right. We can bring it up again.
so do we need to take, make a motion to take no action at this point in this meeting?
This is just a
is department
workshop
head
meeting.
reports.
You
Okay.
can't really make any final decisions.
Okay.
Next item.
There you go.
Go ahead.
Next up, perfect, okay, sounds good.
Good discussion, thank you.
That's A and B. C, on the agenda tonight, there is an ordinance to approve a cast-in-place pipe, commonly known as slip lining, of various sanitary sewers and storm sewers in town. The sanitary sewers are located kind of behind Lions Lake. There's a couple 10-inch pipes in that area that are, the water, or the sewer department is telling me that are in pretty bad shape. So we'd like to couple that with a storm sewer project that I already had planned underneath High Street across from Napa. There's a detention basin. There's actually a 48-inch metal pipe there. Salt over time degrades the bottom of those pipes, and there is no bottom in the bottom of that pipe. So we're moving forth, obviously, with overlaying that road next year. So I'm just trying to get ahead of it by slip lining the 40-inch pipe. We could look at cutting the street, opening it up, and shutting the street down. I think that slip lining is a good product to use on short runs on kind of our higher use streets. So I would hope that we could move forward with getting that done.
Talking about situ farm?
What's that?
Are you talking about using situ farm?
Correct, on the storm sewer. We did the same thing. The first time we've ever used it on storm sewer was Washington Heights Drive by Ponderosa. There was another 36-inch actually that worked very well, and traffic was able to remain open, that type of thing. So it's really on small kind of items, small quantity items that have high adverse detriment to the public if we had to open cut it and replace it. So that's, while we were getting them in town, I figured let's just tack on some sanitary sewer as well. That does allow us, the sanitary sewer budget is $150,000 this year, in this budget year, and we're using $37,354 of that. We don't have any other pipes identified right now, but I'm going to be working with Kevin this winter to look at some 6-inch sanitary, which is a lot of the issues that we've been having, some of our, surcharges in our sanitary system. The technology wasn't there to slip line sanitary at 6-inch because you couldn't send a robot down there to cut the service laterals out. So now we can. So we're going to look at identifying what those 6 inches are and try to get a bunch of 6 inches done, hopefully this winter, this winter going into early spring. So the storm sewer portion has a budget $50,000. I've been budgeting $50,000 for the past 2 years to do storm sewer work using cast in place, and that comes in at $39,150. So we're under budget on both different line items. I just try to tackle a sanitary job as while they were mobilized in town.
Are you satisfied with that size pipe that's under High Street with the water, that shed that's coming from the top?
Yeah, I'm not aware that we've ever had any overtopping at that location.
I'm just asking.
No, yeah, I am satisfied with it. Yep, 48,
That's-
48 will take 30 acres, I think it's full, it's essentially full build out.
I thought you said 10.
Oh, no, the storm sewer is 48,
Yeah.
The sanitary is 10-inch, and that's behind Lions Lake. I apologize.
On the storm sewer in front of Napa.
Yes, sir.
The inlet that's in the Napa parking lot.
Yep.
Always seems to have a water. Is this part of that project too, or is that not?
It is. So I've reached out to Napa, part of our right-of-way discussions already, to talk to that property owner about what to do with that. That's not a water leak. I really, I've looked at Google Earth, basically Google Earth Street for years. I'm talking 5, 6, 7 years that it's always kind of leaked at that location.
Right.
We've actually went and surveyed the back of the curb, and then I shot the flow line of that inlet. You can actually run a piece of drain tile in there to drain it into the inlet. So I'm working with the property owner to get that done. That is not a city-owned inlet. That's owned by Napa.
Okay.
So it's not really up to us to do the work, but we're going to coordinate with them on doing like a French drain or a curtain drain, real similar to what we did on McLaughlin Field. We did that same thing. We ran all those, to dry that up. And we'll do the same thing. We'll just put a curtain drain in there to cut that off and then push it, just put it underneath the ground.
It's always been a
Yep.
wet curve.
That's the
there.
plan. I've already met with the property owner. He's willing to do it. It might just be one of those things that we do when the sidewalk goes in. Cut the trench, have it all ready to go for it. So,
Have you ever noticed how slick that curb is?
as far as the algae, yeah, standard when you have water.
Bad.
Yep. It is. It's,
I had a bike wreck there once.
I'm aware. You told me. Stopped in my office. I'm glad you did not get hurt. But we have an issue with that on sump pumps are a big deal because it's a constant flow of water. And when you don't have a place to daylight a sump pump into somebody's yard or anything else, it goes right to the curb line and it constantly runs. And that's a big issue around town. Those aren't typically water leaks. That's just higher groundwater. So, we work on those on individual basis to try to give the homeowners ideas on what they can do to try to eliminate some of that. And we're actively slip lining. Like I said, 150,000 budget this year. We'll have 150,000 next year, and so on and so forth. So you're gonna start seeing these things come out, come before you pretty quick here to try to get some of these things taken care of on this infiltration.
Greg, I hope you're wearing a helmet.
Nope.
So we probably need a motion to send this on to council.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Holtmeyer to send this item on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you sent it on. Thank you.
Okay, the last item here, on High Street again, Ron Avenue and High Street. This is kind of a complicated situation, but Borgia High School has 2 detention basins on the south side of their property. So if you're driving down, there's 3 of them. If you're driving northbound on High Street, so towards Borgia, if you look on the left, there's a small basin right there. There's also 2 that line the property, that go up the property line. And then above that is the KC detention basin. And I know 6-8 weeks ago, 4 council meetings ago, we talked about that a little bit, about that detention basin. At that time, those detention basins are maintained and owned by the owners of the property. So KC Hall and Borgia High School own those. So we've had an ongoing situation in flash flood events, high rain events. What happens is at the lower Borgia High School detention basin, when that water level reaches a certain elevation before it goes over the road, okay, because it drains, there's also an inlet on the right side of the road. So it's in the backyard of the neighbors on Ron Avenue. That inlet acts like an inlet when this water level isn't higher. Water will go from high point to low point. What happens is that inlet becomes an outlet. It's actually, it drains that pond through the backyards. So we've known about this for a few years now. One concept that we had to try to solve this was I put a plate on that inlet. It was a 15-inch pipe. So a 15-inch pipe will push a lot of water through it. And we have plenty of video to show this as well. But I plated that off with a 6-inch plate to try to restrict it. So knowing that water would still leave, if I can hold that water back and buy some time, that we lower the risk of water in the backyard. So that's what Tony did. That's what we came up with 3 years ago. And it's worked pretty well. We've only had 1 complaint. The property, back in August, the morning that we had that large 3-inch rain event in an hour and a half, whatever it was, the property owner came to my office that day and showed me video of where that was backflowing out again at a high level. So using that, specific thing. And water touches the foundation of the home. So we talk about these flooding issues, and you guys get plenty of calls. Oh, my yard's flooded, my side yard's flooded, everything's flooded. Well, if water's not touching the home, it's probably going where it should go. This water actually touches the foundation of this house. They have to open the garage door up to let water through. So that's a big deal. So knowing that the KC, knowing this a little bit, and the KC had this opportunity, I met with our stormwater committee to talk about this, and I think there's a really good opportunity here that we can all kind of work together, be it KC Hall, Borgia High School, the city, and this property owner to try to solve this problem. Whether that be, choke down the detention basins on Borgia to hold more water back during rain events, or things like that. But until we can get the survey done and the actual hydraulic modeling done of the pipe system, I really can't recommend anything. So that's what this does. This is the topographic survey. I'll be working in conjunction with Mark Harriman with BFA. This is something we can do in-house. We can do this in-house. But it is a pretty tedious thing, and quite frankly, I just don't have the manpower to do it at this time. So I'd like to work hand in hand with them to get this done, so I can recommend to you all what to do with the KC Pond and Borgia to try to solve these flooding issues downstream. And this will get paid for out of the stormwater fund as well.
John, is that something you can do? You said High Street's going to be done next year?
It is. That's
Is
an
that
opportunity.
something-
Yeah,
I mean, can you somehow divert?
one thing that I looked at was putting an inlet, further to the south, going up the hill, and then putting an actual, a ditch midway up the hill, like actually cutting a terrace in and running into that inlet, then running it down the hill. The problem is, since all these pipes are connected, it's all gravity, that always is the outlet point. So I actually got to tie the water in further down, tie the pipes in further down. Otherwise, it's like you take water underground and you put it up on the surface is what's happening.
Right.
Because it's, like I said, your water elevation's here, the outlet's here, water goes this way and then goes in the guy's backyard. I mean, it's kind of unique, to be honest, but when it was tied together, it's just how it was. Could be just as easy as putting like a backflow preventer on a storm sewer pipe, like a flat gate that closes.
I was going to say something about a check valve.
Check that's what it is.
Right.
Could look at doing that, but I want to make sure, though, that you still have water coming off the hillside that has to get into that inlet, so you could be causing a problem there.
But if we have a 3-inch rain, the water comes down, you might stop it from going out the inlet,
right.
but then the inlet can't take the water coming off the hill.
That's right.
You're going to have the same issue again.
So see, it's reducing risk. It's not necessarily maybe eliminating. It's trying to figure out if we could get this maybe only to happen once every 50 years rather than once every 3. And this was happening every 6 to 8 months as well.
I got a lot of phone calls on the people there on Ron Avenue that water, like you said, when the water's touching your foundation or it's
a
3,
different
4 inches in the
situation.
garage, it's an issue.
Water between homes,
Believe it when you
not
go
touching
there.
homes is pretty typical.
Right.
Water touching homes is a bigger issue. And this is, I mean, when you use that as kind of your litmus test about how to move forward with something, water touching a house, this is one of the very few. We don't have that happen very often. So I'd like to move forward with trying to get that done this winter and at least being able to recommend to all these 3 entities that this is what we should do.
On the council.
Second.
We have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Hydrich, to move this on. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you've sent it on to council. Thank you.
Perfect. Last thing I got is Lafayette Streets, obviously sidewalks are going in. Hopefully they'll pour those tomorrow, and then we'll start working on the east side. We did add ADA ramps on High Street as well to get to the pool, have that ready to go whenever the pool situation goes, to try to get, if there was any ADA accessible individuals that need that. And the panels, the concrete panels have been, they're getting tore out tomorrow down at Old Highway 100. The pavement tends to buckle a lot through there just because I think the subsurface soils stay wet. It's probably more of a high moisture, high organic kind of situation. So we poured it in concrete because the concrete trucks utilize it. So it's important that we allow traffic to utilize Old 100 from the concrete plant for the entire region, not just Washington. And since the bridge over there is under a weight restriction, we got to make sure we get our situation in order.
They've already started, they've got that in the 3rd phase.
Yep, and we did in phases. It's a little,
Did it right.
lack of better terms, a little clunky, but it's working. We haven't got a lot of complaints.
Okay, any questions of John?
John, 2 things. Did you ever get with back with Washington Heights Pool Club. Did you ever get back with him?
Yes,
Okay.
I've spoken with them 3 times now. We do not locate private service laterals. So the locates you get are typically to the curb stop. It's not, we don't even have an easement to get on the property. So it's just not something we do for anybody. So they are kind of looking for a little bit of a needle in a haystack. But the good point is they know where the curb stop is and they know where the
Right.
line goes into the building. So it's got to be on that line somewhere.
I was just making sure you got back with him. And then,
The idea is that we're going to shut the water off and see if it dries up, because that'll definitely tell you that there's a leak.
or it could be a neighbor up the hill.
What's that?
Or it could be the
Or
neighbor up
could
the hill
be the
then.
neighbor up the hill.
And did we ever get any further on, I know we had some problems with people parking at the well houses in town, in parking lots.
Yeah.
We were talking about putting a sign up at all the well houses, no public parking or city employees
I mean, we
only.
talked about, people parking at the well houses. I did not necessarily think about putting signs, maybe we did, I don't remember, but I can definitely look into that to get that done. Private property, that type of thing. I know Chief is aware, he's been chasing some people off as much as he can. But yeah, we can definitely,
'Cause I know the
post it right at the
trampoline's
entrance.
back on the property again.
Oh, really?
I'd hate for him to fall off the trampoline into our property,
Yeah, we can, we'll get some signage up. I mean, I don't know if signage is gonna.
I don't,
every
yeah, I
trampoline,
think
but-
what's much more effective is if the police give a visit and.
Right. Oh,
him a
most
reminder.
definite.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even think, either one would.
I can work with you, Chief. Okay,
There you go.
we can do it.
Care of that.
I'll work with Chief on getting it done.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Finance Auditing Services.
Within your packets, you've got a letter from Mary Sprung, your finance director. This is to go ahead and renew for the third of a 4-year term with Hawkschild Bloom for auditing services. Standard audit's $19,900. Single audit is an additional $3,600 annually if required. So we recommend moving forward with that. And that's later within your packet, in your council packet.
Any comments or questions? I entertain a motion to send it
Make a
on.
motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Hydrich, seconded by Pettit, to send this item on to council for auditing services. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you moved it on to council. Thank you.
Any other council or department heads?
Tony?
Good evening, council. Just a couple quick notes. We are going to start our first round of leaf pickup. That is going to be the 4th of November, and then we will have a couple weeks off, and then we will follow up on the 2nd of December with the second round. I believe Mary handed out some flyers. We're going to have them mailed out in the utility bill. We do have our e-cycle event coming up on the 12th of October, followed by large trash pickup week on the 14th. And we're already finding large trash being left in some of our alleys, so the fun has already begun. Also, we do have 3 new employees. One started this month, and hopefully on Monday we'll get 2 more laborers starting, so that's a good sign. We got some asphalt work around town we're going to start working on, mostly our water main patches. And we did get 800 tons of salt on last budget year, last month, so later this month we look to get another 800 tons put in our dome and see how we look from there.
Is our compactor working properly at the landfill now?
Yeah, it is back. We did have a situation with the transmission filter. The company was out today and worked on that, changed the filter, and keep an eye on it, so. All right.
Any questions of Tony?
Thanks.
Did someone else or?
Mark?
Oh.
Arwen? Hey.
We'll all get up one time.
Will
Yeah.
the real Wayne Donker please stand?
Just a few updates. The crew's been working over the last, I guess probably since the last council meeting at soccer fields. We had some drainage issues up there that we're working through. irrigation, some minor irrigation issues. We were doing some concrete work up there, installing ADA sidewalks and pathways, and put some concrete under some bleachers up there. And then some drainage work on the outskirts of Field 1. So all that's been in place. Grass is, now that it's not 95 degrees for 2 weeks in a row, grass is starting to come up. It's looking pretty nice up there. Excuse me. The other thing one of the other things I want to inform you about is, I think you all saw the email I sent out recently about the ribbon cutting at Burger Park for the disc golf. That'll be this Thursday at 5:15. Be a short ceremony. Should be members of the Elks and Lions there that help donate the money to get that park running. And then we'll do a short picture and a ribbon cutting there at the park. And you guys can mill around and ask questions and kind of just see what we've been doing over there. The park board will be there also. We were supposed to have a park board meeting that night, but in lieu of the meeting, we're having the ribbon cutting. So should be nice weather and should be a nice evening. But as far as some of the things we're doing over there, I'd like to thank Tony and Public Works. They helped us get some millings over there for the parking lot late last week, and we got those all packed in nice and tight. And then we've just been doing a lot of other cleanup work over there, trimming some of the trees, getting some of the vines out. Obviously did a number of concrete pads over there for the baskets. And so you'll see a lot of that stuff on Thursday night if you can make it. And then we'll be heading, or we already have started concrete work. We're starting the process. We're doing prep work today, and then they'll be doing concrete work probably most of the rest of this week at the dog park, preparing for the parking lot over there. Public Works again is going to help us get that parking lot paved. And so we have a deadline for the concrete work of October 14th. So they're hustling and bustling out there. And then Sandy, you'll probably report a little bit about AIB, but I attended the AIB conference with the mayor and our American in Bloom committee, and the city did very well. We received an award for, I guess you would say, best flowers out of 48 cities that participated in the country, and then also a population award. So we were the best city judged overall in our population category, which was 12,000 to 14,000 people. So it was a nice time. It was a good event, and we came away with some hardware. So it's always a good thing. And then I do have a brief video we'd like to show you. We had, since the American in Bloom convention will be here next year, St. Louis and Washington, at the convention this year, we showed a welcome video for Washington, and so I'm going to play that here in a minute. So you'll see, this will be, I guess, probably the first time, other than the people at AIB and the people.
Yeah, we didn't show it because we were keeping it to.
Yeah, so no one's really seen it, and we'll get it on the website and everything after you guys see it here. Any other questions or any questions?
Yeah, Wayne, I got a quick question for you. This kind of goes towards the park board. We have a park board member, and he's on the tree board also.
Yes.
And he's not a resident, so he's a non-voting
Correct.
member. He brought it to my attention, asked if there's any way that we could bring this back and talk about, he enjoys being on it and it has a passion for it, and he comes to every meeting, but if he can't vote, he's losing interest. And he asked me to bring it forward to see if there's any way that we can change that or do something different with that.
I think it's pretty clear you have to be a resident to be on the park board. I don't know with regards to the Urban Forestry Committee.
You do not need to be a resident for urban forestry, right?
I'll have to double check though.
I want to double check that.
Well,
if I
because there's a
could.
lot of people on there that aren't then.
Yeah. But
Or-
park
well, to
board,
be a
you do
voting-
have to be on, you do have to be a resident. I've checked on that. There was one member, I know they had, for example, Dave Waymeyer has been, in the past, he was listed as a board member, and Wayne's predecessor, Darren Dunkel, I expressed that to them at the time, that Dave can act in a capacity of advisory just like we've got advisory board members on 353 and other boards, but he's not an actual member of the thing. Because at one point, I think it was even coming to you in a letter indicating that, another term, and I was like, term of what? I mean, for advisory capacity, not for a board member, because he's not in the city limits. So, but I'll check with the urban forestry.
Check that out.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
Show the video. Anything else? All right.
So this is the video that we showed Saturday night in the process of us welcoming them or inviting them to Washington, and then we were able to go on stage and be there. This was done by,
We need to dim lights.
no, I don't think so. Or maybe you do, I don't know.
Uh-oh. Wonder why I don't have sound.
What?
Lost our audio.
Volume?
Yeah, I did a while ago.
We did it a minute ago. Hold on.
Best laid plans.
They started. here.
Popcorn?
Don't put him to sleep. Don't put him to sleep, Mark.
We had volume while ago.
Yeah, we had it a while ago here.
Are you sure it's up on the remote?
Which remote is it?
Yeah, that's all the way up.
Put up the volume button right there to the right. Nope.
That's strange.
Just
I
talking away.
tested it a while ago before we started and it played.
Oh, we'll
Or
have to-
with volume.
Is it playing through the, can you bring the
we
little
have-
mic down to the computer? Is it coming through the
It's not
computer?
coming through the computer.
Laptop?
While
It
ago.
was nice and loud earlier. Let me start it again here.
Won't sound very good, but.
At least you'll be able to hear it. Why is this?
Turn it down a little bit because you just turned everything up. I'm afraid it's going to be really loud.
It'll hit us real hard.
It will.
I guess, yeah, now it'll probably play through the computer. Should at least.
Hi, I'm Sandy Lucy, and I have the privilege of serving as mayor of the great city of Washington, Missouri. And in my usual style, I immediately said, well, of course we can host the symposium. I know that I was very flattered when they first asked, because I knew that our community would step up to the plate and do a good job at having the symposium in Washington. I sometimes think that our German heritage plays a big role in who we are. Big on hospitality, big on friendliness, big on hard work, big on tidiness. You know, those are a lot of the characteristics that make our community what it is today. And I really believe that that influx of Germans back in 1833 really got us off on the right foot. But we have continued to follow those traditions. And I believe that when new people move to our community, they move here because we're friendly, because we're tidy, because we work hard. We can't wait for you to arrive in our community so that we can show you all around and show you everything that we have been working so hard to get just perfect for our visitors.
Nice.
Thank you. It was done by Ruth McInnes' son,
Jordan and.
Jordan and Evan McInnes.
Show Media.
And Show Media.
Yeah,
right.
Show Media.
Mhm. They did a nice job.
Nice.
So we did issue the official invitation, and we're expecting quite a few people. So anyway, should be good. We have a year to get ready. Council comments? Was there anyone else that wanted to say something? Mark?
Motion to,
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Tough crowd. Do my Rodney Dangerfield. The first thing I have and be coming to you in the next, excuse me, council meeting or so is the Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. In order to qualify for any FEMA funding, any grants, any, flood money or anything that would happen to come up, any sort of issue as far as reimbursement, we have to adopt a hazard mitigation plan. And what we've done in the past is we adopt the regional St. Louis hazard mitigation plan. East-West Gateway is in the process of updating that plan right now. It's a 5-year plan, so this next one will go 20 to 25. And the comment period closed at the end of September. So the draft document's out there now. It'll be formalized shortly. So just want to let you know that'll be coming up to you soon for a resolution to adopt that plan in the next meeting or so, as soon as we get that, as we see that final document. The 17th of October is earthquake exercise, so 10:17 at 10:17 a.m. will be the earthquake exercise. What I've asked staff to do this year is to think about continuity of operations. It's important. We're a city. We need to remain open for business. So for staff to think about, okay, what if we lost City Hall in an earthquake? What if we lost another building? What are our plans to go forward for there and continue to conduct business? So they'll be getting their comments to me. We'll think about that a little bit. So if you feel so inclined on the 17th, if you want to stop in over the Public Safety Building, we'll be over there if anyone wants to check in. And then lastly, I sent you some moisture data coupled with what John had on the heavy rain, flash flooding almost incident we had. I think it was August 27th, coupled with the almost record river levels we've had this year. So hope that was helpful to you to understand, just how wet it's been lately. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Any questions of Mark?
Mark, your emails state that the river stages are still hindering the demolition of the old bridge still. Is that still the case? Or
I don't want to speak to them, but yeah, essentially for them to continue their operations, they have certain levels. I think it has to get down to 14 feet for them to, okay. I believe 14 feet is what it needs to get down, river levels for them to bring the rock out.
Yes, 14 feet.
So, this morning we're at 21 feet.
Wow.
So, it's an issue, and it's going to continue. I've said it before. You have Gavin's Point Dam, which is releasing 80,000 cubic feet a second, which is equivalent to about 6 to 8 feet here. When that water gets here and spreads out, and that's about what that amounts to. And you still have Bagnell Dam dumping, and they're not flowing to the extent they were earlier, but they're still putting water out there too. So, when you look at it, the river levels now, if we'd be about 8 foot less if the dams way up north wouldn't be dumping so much. But obviously they've had record rainfall, and it's been all year long, just like us, up around the northeast, or excuse me, the northwest has been getting tons of water. Yeah, Iowa, Nebraska, Montana. Montana just got 4 feet of snow last week. So yeah, they're getting tons of water, and that all comes through Gavin's Point and comes down the Missouri River. So, and we anticipate that going all the way into winter.
Anyone else with a question?
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Was there anyone else? Kevin? Good.
Kevin?
I'd really like to have, no, just kidding. It's been 8 months, guys, ladies. Everything seems to be doing well. I've never been up here to talk to you. Any questions, comments, have you guys got? You know,
How many people did you have at the fly-in?
we gave 60 rides.
60?
Yeah,
Wow.
it turned out really well.
That's good.
A lot of good comments, but even with the flooding, the construction slowed us down, but I think we're doing really well. I think you guys get readouts of what we're doing, but talk to John, and if you guys have any questions, I'm just here for that.
How's your mechanic doing over there, or not yours, but?
Oh, he's very busy. Yeah, Mr. Stevens, he's bringing a lot of business our way.
That's what
We just got a new airplane in one of our big hangars. Compliments of him. He found them, and then we worked out a deal, and he's burning a lot of gas. If anybody sees it, it's a big, big airplane. Barely fits in our hangar by this much. So,
Need a bigger.
everybody's coming and going.
How is the hangar rental? We're
Pardon
full?
me?
We are full.
We're full.
In a waiting list, I assume?
21 people.
Wow, that's great.
And with all the new rock John has come up with, we can start building more, right?
That's the plan.
All right. Any questions of
Thanks,
Kevin?
Kevin.
Yep.
All right,
guys.
thanks, Kevin. Anyone else?
Ed? I'm going to apologize for being late, Ed. I didn't get to hear your report, but,
He didn't give it
You
yet.
didn't give one.
well, that's probably why. Well, you're going to give one.
Okay.
I saw in the paper on the 1800 block of Stafford Street where we had an accident with a vehicle and an ATV.
Yes.
And I see a lot of ATVs in town now. Is it legal to drive them on the city streets?
An ATV is illegal. A UTV is not. That was a UTV with a licensed driver, so he was not illegal to drive on a roadway.
A UTV is like a utility?
Yes, that's 4 wheels. ATV is 3. So
Oh,
So the four-wheelers are legal.
they are legal as long as they have a licensed driver.
Is it an orange placard? That was, someone has come up with that?
That was for farm equipment, but by ordinance, by statute net, driver's license, some lighting if you're driving at night. I would check, about brakes and that, it's pretty open. I mean, you need a driver's license and 4 wheels.
Golf cart and all that?
Golf cart,
Same
just
way.
fine, same way.
Do you feel we need to visit that?
You might want to, I'd like lighting or brakes or something on those things.
Right.
Brake lights, something. But this accident was, the driver had a seizure. And so lost control, and that's how this accident happened. It wasn't over crazy driving or anything. He had a medical issue and had an accident.
We need to go through the police committee to get that straightened out.
We could go
Traffic
through
committee.
traffic committee and make
That's what I'd
recommendations to
suggest.
council.
Okay.
We can do that.
Nice report.
Thank you. Thank you.
anyone else?
Good for council work.
Council comments?
What'd you say?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Padkey, seconded by Hopemeyer to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, we are adjourned. Thank you.